Polls show Donald Trump still has an edge and is in a better place than he was in 2016 and by some metrics, 2020. Still, the race in the key battleground states has tightened between Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris, which is not where we were just over a week ago before President Joe Biden dropped out of the race. You might remember back then, all of 8 or 9 days ago, battleground states were slipping out of Biden's reach. Democrats were sounding the alarm that even second and third tier purplish blue states could fall to Trump, including New Hampshire and New Mexico, Virginia, and even Minnesota. That internal Democratic polling document we told you about 2 weeks ago at the Republican convention had Biden with only a 0.4 percentage point advantage in Minnesota. 0.4. Minnesota now, according to a Fox News poll, shows Harris up by 6 percentage points in Minnesota. Nonetheless, Donald Trump, who was in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Saturday night, told his supporters this falsehood.
If they don't cheat, we win this state easily, okay? They cheat. They have no shame. They cheat. Do you understand that, you crooked people? They're the most crooked. They cheat. They cheated in the last election, and they're going to cheat in this election, but we're going to get them.
Donald Trump, of course, lost the election fair and square in 2020. And for the record, the state of Minnesota has not voted for a Republican for president since I was 3 years old, since Richard Nixon in 1972. And yes, that even includes when Ronald Reagan won landslide electoral college victories. Do we have those 1980 and 84 maps handy? Look at that. That's the 1980. Look, all see that sea of red? And then at the top in the middle there, that's little Minnesota. That's blue. One of the very few states in 1980 that did not vote for Reagan. Then 1984, Minnesota. Besides D.C., literally the only Democratic holdout in the Reagan landslide of 1984. Trump himself lost to Hillary Clinton in Minnesota by 1.6 percentage points in 2016, the year he won. And he lost to President Biden there in 2020 by 7 percentage points. And yet, Trump, who has also never won the popular vote and lost the electoral vote in 2020, is out there saying that if he loses Minnesota, it's because of cheating. It's not true. And more importantly, we have seen this movie before. We know that lies about election fraud are not harmless. When Trump falsely claimed repeatedly that the 2020 election was rigged, his fervent supporters believed him. And this is what those lies wrought. Trump supporters, so enraged by those election lies that they believed, they took matters into their own hands. They were willing to violate laws. They were willing to violate the U.S. Constitution by attacking the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, one of the most shameful days in this nation's history. They were attempting to stop the certification of an election that President Joe Biden won fairly. 3 of Trump's supporters died that day of apparent medical emergencies. One Trump supporter was fatally shot by police as she approached the floor of the House of Representatives along with a violent mob. A U.S. Capitol Police officer, Brian Sicknick, later died of his injuries withstood on that day, and then 4 other officers who defended the Capitol that day and were traumatized took their own lives. And it all began with this lie that the election was stolen. You know who didn't believe Trump's lies, as it turns out? Trump's 2020 campaign manager, Trump's White House counsel, Trump's attorney general.
Told the president in no uncertain terms that I did not see evidence of fraud and that would have affected the outcome of the election. And frankly, a year and a half later, I haven't seen anything to change my mind on that.
You know who else didn't believe these lies about the election being stolen? Trump's daughter, Ivanka.
How did that affect your perspective about the election when Attorney General Barr made that statement?
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
People in Trump's orbit then knew the truth that widespread election fraud was simply not a thing. And here we are again in 2024 with just 99 days to go until the election, listening to Donald Trump stick with these same fabricated claims that he can only lose Minnesota if Democrats cheat. No. Now look, Donald Trump may very well win the election. He may well lose the election. But these lies, they literally have a body count. All of this is playing out as Trump and Harris are out there making their case to voters. And as CNN's Kayla Tausche reports, they're trying out new attack lines.
With 99 days till Election Day, both parties racing to sharpen their attacks.
The most incompetent, unpopular, and far-left vice president in American history, probably the most far-left person in American history.
The American people are never going to elect a wacky, out-of-touch San Francisco liberal like Kamala Harris.
You may have noticed Donald Trump has been resorting to some wild lies about my record, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
Weird and extreme, the Harris campaign now says as it warns voters on Trump's record on abortion rights.
1 in 3 women of reproductive age in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban.
For Harris, a critical stretch ahead, set to clinch the official nomination and soon to name her running mate. Contenders auditioning on the stump and across the airwaves.
I think we've seen over the last, decades that who you pick as your vice president doesn't determine whether you're going to win a state or not.
That is weird behavior, and I don't think you call it anything else. It is simply what we're observing.
He's not just afraid to debate her because he knows she's going to kick his ass in the debate.
Trump says he'll head back to Pennsylvania as the battleground travel heats up. Harris making a renewed push in Georgia with the Tuesday visit, and both campaigns holding dueling events in Nevada. Recent polls show the race tightening, with Harris beginning to close the gap with Trump as her favorability rises, and the race enters a high-drama home stretch.
The Harris campaign also says that the vice president is heading into this home stretch with $200 million that she raised just in the week after Joe Biden withdrew from the race. Jake, we're also learning from sources that the Harris campaign plans to beef up its fundraising staff to try to capitalize on that momentum and build an infrastructure that is more in Harris's image than Biden's. Jake.
All right, Kayla Tausche at the White House. Thanks so much. My panel joins me now to discuss. Mo, I want to play this other moment from former President Trump on Saturday.
They say, he is not for democracy. I took a bullet for democracy. He didn't.
I think talking about the assassination attempt is going to be something he frequently talks about. Don't you think?
No, and I think we'll hear a lot more about it. And it was a terrible thing for our democracy. And any type of political violence is terrible for our democracy. But when Paul Pelosi was savagely beaten in his house by someone who was targeting Nancy Pelosi because she was standing up for democracy, Donald Trump mocked them. When John McCain, who was literally shot down defending democracy, Donald Trump mocked him. Donald Trump has a long history of mocking people who are standing up and fighting for democracy. And frankly, Donald Trump is the only candidate in this race who incited an insurrection against those who were trying to uphold democracy. So we'll see how it holds. But yeah, I think he's going to talk about it a lot.
Joan, I think it's fair to say, objectively, it's been a rocky start for J.D. Vance as the running mate. Even those who love him might acknowledge that. He's faced backlash for the childless cat lady's comment, his abortion stance, previous criticisms of Trump. Face criticism. Here's the Wall Street Journal editorial board. Donald Trump's choice of 39-year-old J.D. Vance as his running mate was supposed to present the GOP ticket as modern and looking to the future. Instead, the campaign has found itself playing defense against Mr. Vance's censorious views. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Close enough.
Close enough. About women who don't have children. What do you make of it all? I mean, it seemed as though it was a real pick born from the campaign feeling very confident that Biden was going to be easily defeated. Do you think that Trump would pick J.D. Vance given today's givens?
I don't get that vibe. I can put that out there. Yeah, look, I think it was a confidence pick. Lots of people said it was Trump doubling down and all that. I think the problem is there were a lot of people in called MAGA world who thought because they liked Trump from the beginning, and the people who didn't, like me, were proven wrong and Trump won and all that, that meant they actually had a really great grasp of politics. And it turns out they don't have a great grasp of politics either. And the truth of it is that, you know, Vance leans into the understanding that Trumpism, the point of Trumpism is the insults, right? It's like, you can't just be for a good policy. You have to make sure that the left, that you're drinking the left's tears, right? You know, liberal tears are delicious kind of thing. So his whole thing about the context of the childless cat lady is about the child tax credit.
Right.
Child tax credit is wildly popular,
right.
And he has managed to frame it in a way to make it unpopular. And that's because he doesn't have the freedom that a cult of personality like Trump has to sort of just be able to speak freely about these things, because no one holds Trump accountable the way they hold normal politicians. When normal politicians try to imitate Trump, they're unpopular.